and modify. Stop, drop it low, but pick it up carefully. Work them glutes like you in physical therapy.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum viewers, welcome to my channel. In this tutorial we will learn about the neuroanatomy. So let's start. Basically neurons is the basic unit of the nervous system, so which contain the brain and the spinal cord. As you people are well aware of the nervous system is basically having two branches, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So central nervous system having multiple functions. They are first they are having senses. They get information from the environment, from the person's somatic system, and then integrate it, and the brain respond to this the kind of impulse, or the kind of the message which it gain, and then it responded and in the shape of the motor response. So senses are can be of the generalized senses and the specific senses. The generalized senses which include the somatic senses, while the specific senses, like you can see in this picture, the eye, the vision, which perform the function of vision, hearing, and the taste and the smelling. Here one of the feature is missing, which is the vestibular system, which also control the balance, which is also having a sensory function. And the another one is the generalized senses. Generalized senses are those senses which are touch, because they can be feel from the whole body, or they are also called as somatic touch sensory system. Okay, then when the brain receive the signals, the brain responds to the signals. Like here I'm giving you example. When the person's arm become in contact with the fire, or the fire, the person rapidly just remove his hand, or take his hand back to save his hand from burning. So that's how this is what we call as the motor response. Motor response is basically for the muscular action, and when you perform when your brain give response, or give response to the sensory message in the form of motor system. Okay, so the brain, we will start from the upper portion of the brain, then we will move downward. Like we will start from here, then we'll move downward. Okay, so now the meninges is also called, are the layers of the brain. Okay, after the as you can see that this is the skull. Upper part, there you will have the skin, then you have the periosteum, then you have the bone, and then you have the periosteal layer. Below the periosteum, below the bone, there is a periosteal layer, and then you are having the meningeal layer. The first is the dura mater. Second, the first layer of the brain is called as the dura mater, which start from the periosteal layer and the meningeal layer. Okay, then we are having the arachnoid mater, as you can see here. So the arachnoid mater is the next meningeal layer, and then in last we are having the pia mater. Okay, so the spaces, the sub means in between. As the name suggests, that the subdural means in between the dura mater, and the subarachnoid means in between the arachnoid mater. So the arachnoid mater is the layer beneath which the blood vessels and the lymphatic system of the brain found. As you can see, these are the blood vessels, this is the lymphatic system. As you can see, there is a sinus, and these are the blood vessels, and these are the fissure, or you can see you can give a name to the commissure. I will tell you about this in the later slides. Okay, so these are the layer what I was talking about. So the dura mater is having two layers of fibrous connective tissue fused except for the dural sinuses, and which is the first outer layer is the periosteal layer, which is beneath the bone, and the meningeal layer, which is the outer proper covering of the brain. Then we are having the arachnoid mater, as you can see this one. Then pia mater is the last layer of the brain. So first one is what we called as the dura mater, then we are having arachnoid matter, then we are having the pia mater. So arachnoid matter is this last layer of the brain. This is the actually arachnoid villus. So okay, this, as you can see, this is the skin, then there is the periosteal layer, then is the bone, then you are having the dura mater starts. Okay, so let's start. First we will start about from the central nervous system. The central nervous system basically contain the brain and the spinal cord, as you can see. And first of all we will talk about the brain. So let's start. This is the brain, and the outer part of the brain you can see here, which we called as the prosencephalon, and we will talk it in the further slides. Okay, so brain are having three major divisions. The first one is the forebrain, which means the outermost part. The second one is the hindbrain, which means the last part, and midbrain is the in between the forebrain and hindbrain. So forebrain process actually sensory information and motor and give the motor response, and also involve in the function of the regulation autonomic nervous system, autonomic regulation, endocrine and motor functioning, while the midbrain help to regulate the movements and process auditory and visualizing, also contains some memorizing functions, and the hindbrain is help to regulate autonomic functions, which involves sympathetic and parasympathetic relations in information, coordinate movement and maintain balance and equilibrium. Okay, as you can see, these are the upper one is the forebrain, the mid one is the midbrain, and the last one is the hindbrain. So the first of all we will talk about the forebrain. Forebrain is having structures which we call as the gyres. Gyres are nothing but these structure. As you can see, these tuberous structures, these tube like structures are called as the gyres. These are the gyres, and these gyres are divided by this as you can see the division, which we called as the central sulcus or central fissure, and there you are having the temporal or transverse fissure, and the last here it is you have the parietal or occipital fissure. So what is the function of this fissure? The main function of this fissure is this divide the brain into the frontal lobe, and the front part from the central sulcus frontal lobe, and behind the the central sulcus you are having this parietal lobe, and behind the central the occipital sulcus you are having this parietal lobe. Okay, so these are the outer surfaces, and the temporal sulcus which is found here, it divides the brain into the temporal lobe from the upper parts. So okay, this is the whole this outer which you can see the gyres are called as the neocortex. Oh sorry, prosencephalon. This is the, as you can see, the forebrain. Okay, this is the central gyrus. This one is what called as the central gyrus, and above to this is the precentral cortex, and this is also called as the motor cortex, the anterior lobe, and there you can see the post central cortex, which is called as the somatosensory cortex, and there is, you can also having the this area is called the supplementary area, and this is area is the called as premotor cortex, while this area is called as the prefrontal cortex. As you can see here, these are these structure. This is precentral, postcentral, central gyrus, the supplementary area, the frontal cortex, motor cortex, the prefrontal cortex, and there is a parietal lobe and other structure. Okay, there is gray matter and white matter which is found in the brain. If we cut the brain into from the coronal section, okay, so if we cut, wait, I will tell you. If we cut brain from here to here, we will found and this is the anterior side, this is the posterior side. So here we will find that the outer lining, that that is the which is gray in structure, the uppermost layer, this is called as the gray matter. And this one, this whole structure is called as the gray matter. And as you can see, this matter, the other remaining part is what called as the white matter. This one is the white matter. As you can see, this is the structure in white, so they are called as the white matter. This is all white part. Okay, so now we will further discuss. So the gray matter is nothing but it contains the cell bodies. As you can see, the neuron, this is the neuron, which is the basic unit of the nervous system. The whole all over the body, whenever where you find the nerves, so you will find the neurons. This is the basic unit. So this part is what called as the cell body, and this part is what called as the axon. Okay, so this cell body and this axon give the brain the white and the gray color. So as you can see that the cell bodies found in the gray matter, that's why it give the structure a gray color. This, like you can see here, they are inside the gray matter. So all the gray matter is made up of the cell bodies, this gray matter, and the white matter, which is surrounded which surround here, this by the axons. They are the number of axons found here, then which made the white matter. So for the remembering purpose, just take an example that rats, the tails, which is this, the tails of the rats are the white matter, and the bodies of the rats are the gray matter. As you can see here, just think that the cell body is the body of the rat, and the tail and means axons is the tail of the rats. Okay, so the brain is antero-posteriorly, I mean the from front to back, means in this direction. It is connected by the structures, like you can see here, the structures. This is what called as the association fibers, which connect the brain from antero-posteriorly. And there is also some structures, like you can see the red, this red material. This is what called as the commissure fibers, and its example, the major example is corpus callosum, which connect the brain from transverse portion or from left to right. You can see here it connect the brain in this direction, while the association fiber connect the brain from here to upward, I mean forward, yeah, or anteriorly. Okay, this is the commissure, and these are the antero-posteriorly are called as the association fibers. Okay, so as I told you that the forebrain is also called, these are some specific names of the brain and part of the brain. So the outer uppermost part, forebrain, which is also called as prosencephalon, and the cortex is called as the telencephalon. The thalamus and the deep into the cortex is called as the diencephalon, while the midbrain is also called as the mesencephalon, and the hindbrain is called as the rhombencephalon. So in hindbrain, the cerebellum is called as the metencephalon. Okay, as you can see that this part, this whole part is what called as prosencephalon. So in this part we are having the midbrain. Midbrain is basically here, found here. This is what called as the metencephalon or mesencephalon. Okay, so midbrain is called mesencephalon, and the hindbrain is called as the rhombencephalon. Here, this is all the hindbrain. Okay, these are the hindbrain, these structures. So this is what called as the rhombencephalon, while the cerebellum, only cerebellum, if we take only cerebellum, this part, this is what called as the cerebellum. Okay, this whole is the cerebrum. This is the cerebellum. Okay, keep in mind that the part of the brain I am drawing in red, this whole is called as cerebrum. This whole part is what called as the cerebrum, and this part is called as the cerebellum. Okay, keep in mind this is cerebrum, this is cerebellum, and this portion which you can see here, this is called as the diencephalon. So okay, now white matter and gray matter, as I told you guys that this is the gray matter and this is the white matter. Now we will talk about the brain cells. Brain, as I told you that brain contain two types of cells. The first, as I told you, the neurons, and others are the glial cells. Basically the basic unit of the nervous system is neuron, while the glial cells are those cells which support the neurons. They are surrounded by the glial cells, surrounded by the neuron is surrounded by the glial cells, and there are a little bit difference in their name and functions in the central nervous system, comparing to central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. So as you can see, the ependymal cells, the central nervous system found ependymal cells, the oligodendrocytes, the astrocytes, and the microglial cells. So the ependymal cells are those cells which are giving the structure to the brain cells, and the oligodendrocytes are those cells which play an important role in the formation of the myelin sheet, and the astrocytes are those cells which perform the function of the balancing in the brain cells, while the microglial cells are the immune cells that clear the debris of the brain, and they act as the macrophages. Now we will talk about the peripheral nervous system. So the peripheral nervous system contain the satellite cells and the Schwann cells. The satellite cells having the same function like the astrocytes. It give the chemical process. It maintain the chemical processes found in the peripheral nerves, while the Schwann cells are the cells that they play that they play action their role in the formation of the myelin sheet. Now this is the neuron and the below structure. Here I will tell you the neurons and the glial cells. Okay, so as you can see, the cells which are surrounded the axons like this, which I am drawing, or which I am underlining these cells. So these are called as the oligodendrocyte or the glial cell, as you can see here, and the underlining or the lining which I am drawing is the nerve cells or neurons, as you can see here. These are the neurons which are surrounded by the glial cells, or the neuron is found in the glial cells. So this is the neuron. Okay, so these are the ependymal cells, as you can see here. These are the ependymal cells, and these are the oligodendrocyte and astrocytes, the microglial cells, which is also act as the macrophagic function or immune function to the brain. Now we will talk about the basal ganglia. Basal ganglia is actually the structure which is found deep to the cortex or the prosencephalon. So this is the as you can see here, this is the upper structure which we talk about, the prosencephalon and the forebrain, and in the mid or deep to the forebrain we are found these two structures which is called as the diencephalon. Limbic system is the continuation or the group of structures which contain the hippocampus, which is made up of hippocampus, fornix, amygdala. Hippocampus is having a main function in the memorizing and the language controlling, also having some function in endocrine system controlling, while the fornix and the hippocampus also having the same function, while amygdala is having function in the memorizing. And now we will talk about the diencephalon. So diencephalon contain the thalamus, hypothalamus, and pineal gland. Thalamus is the structure which is also called as the relay station, and it act as the whenever you enter any office, there is a desk. First you should go there and take some information, and then he or she will redirect you to the main area or the main office. So the thalamus is having the same function like the desk or the helping desk, which get information from the brain and decide it to either to send it to the brain or to do not send into the prosencephalon. While the hypothalamus is the having main function, its main function is the homeostasis by regulating the endocrine system. On the other hand, the pineal gland is having the very crucial role in our body system, which control the melatonin hormone, and which function is our biological control of our biological clock and our sleep cycle. Okay, so now I will tell you these structures one by one. So as you can see, this is the caudate nucleus. These are the putamen and globus pallidus externa and interna. Which okay, here you will find the amygdala, and there is the hippocampus, and there is the fornix. Okay, so these are these structure which form the limbic system. These structures we found here, you can see this is the hypothalamus, and these two structures are the called thalamides, which is also called as thalamus, and you will find the pineal gland in the posterior side. And here you will find the pineal gland, which is absent in this model. So the limbic system, as I told you, this is the limbic system which contains the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the fornix. So as you can see, this is the hippocampus, this one, and this is the amygdala, this part, and this is the fornix, which made the limbic system. As you can see, the hippocampus is the structure which is highlighting in orange color. So now we will talk about the basal ganglia. Basal ganglia is actually first we will talk about the striatum. Striatum is the collection of nuclei which made up of the caudate nucleus and the putamens, while the lentiform nucleus, the striatum is also called as neostriatum. Or okay, so the next structure is the lentiform nucleus. Natiform nucleus is the you people know that the collection of the cell bodies in the central nervous system is called as nuclei or nucleus. So the this is the structure which is formed by the globus pallidus externa and globus pallidus interna together with putamen, and that's why we call this the lentiform nucleus. Okay, so now I will tell you which are these structures. So as you can see, this in the red, highlighting in the red, this is what we called as the caudate nucleus, and this is the putamen. So together, these both together form the this plus this form what they are called as the striatum, while or also called as the neostriatum, while behind so this structure found the striatum, while this structure, as you can see, this the putamen together with this together with globus pallidus externa and interna, these form as the lentiform nucleus. As you can see here, the lentiform nucleus. Okay, now we will talk about the ventricles. Ventricles are the structure that form the cerebrospinal fluid, which is the fluid that give the lubrication to the central nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord. So these are the structures, as you can see in blue. So here as you can see in the central, there are a small hole like structure, this one, which is called as the central foramen, and you will find the very thin layer here, this which join this ventricle to the this lateral ventricles. This is what called as septum pellucidum, and there is another structure which we called as the cerebral aqueduct. This is what the cerebral aqueduct, which connect the third ventricle to the fourth ventricle. So this is the way of the cerebrospinal fluid, as you can see here in the showing the arrows which are moving from the brain downward to the spinal cord and then move upward again. So this is the level, on the level L1 we can lumbar puncture. Which is the procedure used to find is there if there is any infection or the other kind of diseases, to also to differentially diagnose the condition. So lumbar puncture is nothing but it is the the taking the cerebrospinal fluid to for the laboratory tests. Now we will talk about we covered a lot of forebrain. Now we will talk about the midbrain, which is also called as the mesencephalon. So the mesencephalon or the midbrain contain the ventricular part, only one part, which is called the cerebral aqueduct, like what I told you in the previous slide, which connect the third ventricle to the fourth ventricle. There are total four number of ventricles. Okay, anterior to the ventricle or the midbrain, we are having the tectum where the thalamus sit, and anterior to the tectum we are having the tegmentum. And then anterior to this we are having the peduncles, the cerebral peduncles we also call as. So the tectum is the area where the thalami or thalamus sits. There are four calculus, which is also called as the corpora quadrigemina, and the tegmentum is the area anterior to the I mean the in front of tectum, the tegmentum found, which contain the medial lemniscal and anterior tract, which passes from here. Then it contains the peduncles. It also contains the red nucleus, the raphe nuclei, the cranial nerve third and fourth, the ventral tegmentum, and the crus cerebralis and substantia nigra. Now I will tell you it in the diagram. So as you can see, this is the midbrain. Now we will more focus on the midbrain. As you can see, this is the posterior side and this is the anterior side. Now we will check all of these. So this is the caudal section of the midbrain, or we took the cross sectional area of the brain. Now we will think that we are watching brain from the upper from the skull or from the superior portion. So as you can see, there are the anterolateral tracts, spinothalamic tract, and this is the medial lemniscal tract, this, which are both having the sensory functions, this. Okay, and then you are having this structure which is called as the red nuclei. This is the ventral tegmentum, like what I told you. This is superior to the or anterior to the tectum. This is the red raphe nuclei, which is found in between the structure, and there is the cerebral aqueduct, which connect third ventricle to the fourth ventricle. These are the cranial nerve fourth, and this is the cranial nerve 3, and this is the substantia nigra. This is the crus cerebralis. So this is all the structures that found in the midbrain. Now the substantia nigra is a basal ganglial structure located in the midbrain that play an important role in the reward and the movement. And the substantia nigra is which is the Latin word which defined as the black color. Its function is to formation of the the dopaminergic and serotonergic neuron into the neuromelatonin melanin. Okay, so this is, as you can see, this is the substantia nigra, which is also called as the dopaminergic neuron, and there is the pathway. The lack of dopamine can cause you the movement disorder or the tremors, which is the disorder named as Parkinson's disease. So the person with shivering of the hand and tremors, you can see the sign you can see these sign and symptoms: the bradykinesia, the stoop posture, and the tremors. This is the triad sign of the Parkinson's disease. So the basically the dopamine formation occur in the substantia nigra, which then travel to the caudate nucleus, and then to the putamen, and then to the thalamus, and then to the brain. And brain will then decide what to do for the what to do with these messages, either to move or either to doesn't move. So when there is an abnormality in the substantia nigra, so the tremors and the movement disorder occur. Now we will talk about the hindbrain. Hindbrain is the last part of the brain which contains the pons, medulla oblongata, reticular formation, and the cerebellum. First we will talk the pons. Pons are basically these structures which found below the midbrain anteriorly, which contains the peduncles, and it is also found in above the medulla oblongata, and it control the sleep as well as the rate and pattern of breathing. Now we will talk about the cerebellum. Cerebellum is also called as second brain. It is the region of the brain that coordinates sensory input with muscular response, and located below the and behind the cerebellar hemisphere, and above the medulla oblongata. Its function is mainly in the coordination of muscle activity for voluntary movements, and is enabling fine muscle adjustments to maintain balance, and it allow the body to actually give the smooth, the well coordinated, and the well coordinated smooth pattern movements, allow the person to do these kind of movements. Now the cerebellum is having the vermis, which is the central part of the cerebellum, and problem in the vermis can cause the disorders of the central portion of the whole body. And there you can find the lateral hemisphere, the left lateral hemisphere, and the right lateral hemisphere. There is also a fissure which is called as posterolateral fissures, and there is having it is having also lobes like the anterior lobe, posterior lobe, floculonodular lobe, or vestibular lobe, it is also called. Now medulla oblongata is basically the continuation of the spinal cord after the foramen magnum. It is actually its function is controlling the heart and lungs, control centers for the heart and lungs, and it control the function of the heart and lung. As you can see, this is the medulla oblongata. So this is called as the reticular formation. This is the area where the a lot of the gray matter and white matter decussate each other, and the tract of various they decussate each other, and there is a number of nuclei found here, which is also called as the cranial nerve nuclei. So there is the strains of the gray matter, and surrounded by the white matter. So that is why it is called as the reticular formation area. Okay, so now we just discussed the whole brain. Now we'll talk about the spinal cord. Spinal cord is a part of central nervous system, which is made up of steroids, fatty in nature, and proteins, and it contain white and gray matter also. But there is a difference in the white and gray matter of the brain and the spinal cord. And the difference is that the gray matter in the brain is found outermost part, while in the central the spinal cord, it contained in the median part or in the center. it contains the layers covering the spinal cord, which is also called as meninges, same as like the brain contain the cerebrospinal fluid, which flow all over it. And in male the spinal cord is about 45 centimeter in length, while in female it is 43 centimeter in length. The spinal cord, which is the typical spinal cord, it end on the lumbar first vertebra, and after that the cauda equina starts. So the spinal cord is having these structures. As you can see, there is the enlargement which is found only in the cervical region, this enlargement, and the lumbar region. As you can see, this enlargement. So there are two enlargements in this spinal cord, in the spinal cord, and there is the end of the spinal cord on a lumbar first vertebra, as you can see. So this is what called as conus medullaris, and this structure, like the tail of the horse, which is Latin means, in Latin we called as the cauda equina. Now the terminating part of the spinal cord, so called as the phylum terminale interna, or part 1 of our final part, and the end part of the spinal cord or cauda equina is called as the phylum terminale. There are total 31 pair of spinal nerves arising from spinal cord. So the spinal cord, when we cross sectionally take a picture, or when we are looking from above or from superior, the spinal cord look like these structures. So as you can see, this is what the central canal is, and this is the posterior side, this is the anterior side. I will further tell you about these all structures in further detail. Okay, so as you can see, these are the structure that found, okay, the spinal cord, the posteriorly and anteriorly, the laterally, what they found. Now I will tell you about all of them. So this is the posterior side, posterior dorsal. The structure here is called as the posterior median sulcus. This structure, this lining which join the two lateral parts of the spinal cord, is called as posterior median sulcus, and this area which anterior joining the two lateral part of the spinal cord is called as anterior median fissure. Okay, so there is the central canal. As you can see, here is the sensory ganglion, which is which comes from the peripheral nerves and towards the spinal cord. That's why it's called a sensory. And there is a motor neuron, anterior rami of the motor neuron, and here you can see the ramus. Ramus is basically the structure where the one spinal and one the spinal and the sensory, the motor and sensory nerves are decascending, or are becoming in two parts of anterior, posterior, and anterior and posterior parts. So this part is called as posterior ramus, and this called is what called as anterior ramus. So here you can see the fasciculus gracilis. Okay, these structures are the called as fasciculis. These fasciculus posterior, fasciculus anterior, fasciculus lateral, these are the fasciculi. Okay, so the fasciculus gracilis is a part which is absent in the which is only found in the lower limb, this area, which like what I show tell you in the enlargement of the lumbar region. The lumbar enlargement is due to these two structures, addition of these two structures, because the addition of these two structure, and the funiculus cuneatus is only found in the cervical region. So these two structure causes the cervical and the lumbar region to enlarge. So as you can see, this is the spinal cord. So now I will tell you about the dorsal and the anterior. There are two basic mnemonic which I learned from the help of by the help of which I learned these anterior rami and posterior rami. So SAVE means sensory afferent and ventral efferent. Sensory is the afferent nerve, means afferent is which is arising from the. So sensory is afferent and ventral is the efferent. Ventral is the anterior side, which nerve is actually efferent, and sensory is the nerve which rise from the posterior side, and it is afferent. And the next mnemonic is DAM, which means dorsal is afferent and motor is efferent. So dorsal afferent neuron, the posterior neuron ramus which is rising is afferent, means it is sensory, and the ventral or the motor neuron which is arising from the anterior side is motor in function. Okay, now I will tell you that what is first order neuron, second order neuron, or third order neuron. Okay, as you can see, this is the peripheral nerve, this is the body where the nerve take information to the spinal cord, and here it form one joint. So this is what called as the first order neuron. From here to the spine to the brain, it take information from the spinal cord to the upper portion of the brain. So here it formed the second order neuron, while from the thalamus to the cortex it formed the third order neurons. This is what the first order, second order, and third order neurons. This is the sensory pathway. Same is for the motor pathway. So now we will talk about the pathways or tracts of the spinal cord. These are basically the collection of the neurons which travels through the spinal cord. So there is you will find the motor pathway, which is also called as descending pathway. So there are two pathways for the motor system, means for the muscular motor response. The one is the pyramidal or the cortical pathway, and the next one is the subcortical pathway. While sensory pathways there are also sensory pathways which is called as the dorsal medial lemniscal pathway, and anterolateral spinothalamic tract, and spinocerebellar tract. Now we will discuss one of them one by one. So the cortical pathways, first of all we will discuss about the first pathway of the motor system, which is called as the cortical pathways. Cortical pathway is having two main pathway: anterior corticospinal tract and the lateral corticospinal tract. Anterior corticospinal tract is having 15%, which doesn't cross on the level of the pons, and it move downward or descend downward, and then it cross on the level of the spinal cord, and it supply the axial muscle, or means the muscles of the spinal area. While the lateral corticospinal tract is forming around 85%, and it's supplied to the muscles of the limbs. So the subcortical pathway is that pathway which doesn't arise from the cortex or the prosencephalon. It arises from the different structures which is found into the midbrain or to the deep into the cortex. So there are the tectospinal, vestibulospinal, rubrospinal, and tectospinal pathways. So first of all, we will talk about motor descending pathway. Motor or descending pathways, they are tracts or tracts. So first we will discuss about cortical pathway. As I told you, these are the cortical pathways. As you can see, it arises directly from the prosencephalon from here, and these neurons are forming this kind of the crown shape. So this structure which is forming this crown shape is called as corona radiata, and the gray column or the gray matter here is found by the sixth layer of the cell bodies, which is called as the neocortex, and below the six layers it's called as the allocortex. So these fibers descend downward from the cortex downward, and here they descend in the area of the pyramids of the pons, and then it also supplied to the cerebellum and of the opposite side. They cross here and doesn't cross on the area of the spinal cord like the anterior path divides. Here this is called as the lateral corticospinal tracts. So they move downwards, and they move downward, and they move downward, and here they supply the spinal cord, and then they supply to the muscles of the body, while they are forming the lateral corticospinal tract forming around 85%, and they supply the limbs of the muscle, limbs of the body, upper limb and the lower limb, and most of the appendicular structures, while the anterior corticospinal tract, as you can see here, you can see it is moving downward, and it decussate here, as you can see here, it is moving anteriorly and decussate here. So as you can see here, they divide in this region. This is what called as the anterior corticospinal tract, and it is forming 15% of the body innervation, which supply to the axial skeleton or the spinal muscles. So these are the corticospinal tract overview of the corticospinal tracts. So now we will talk about the subcorticospinal tract. It is those tract which does not originate directly from the cortex, but it originates from the, as you can see here, it originates from the various part of the brain, like the tectum. Here is the tectum, or the from this area, and from the midbrain. They arises from the midbrain in place of here from the cortex. So that's why they are called as subcortical pathways. They do not follow the cortex. They doesn't arise from the cortex and found below the, and originate below the cortex. So okay, they move downward. This is what the first one is called as the tectospinal tract. The next one is called as pontine reticulospinal tract. So the tectospinal tract supply the muscles of the extensor area, and the tecto also supply the muscles of the extensor muscles, and this is the rubrospinal tract, which originate from the red nuclei, and nerve fibers, axons cross the midline, descend downward, then as the rubrospinal tract move downward through the pons and the medulla oblongata, and it terminate on the anterior gray horn of the spinal cord. So they actually give nerve supply to the anterior part of the flexors muscles. This is the vestibulospinal tract, which is related to the vestibular system, and it receives afferent from the inner ear and cerebellum, and they descends uncrossed through the medulla and through the length of the spinal cord, and it synapse with the neuron and in the anterior gray horn of the column of the spinal cord. So synapse means the space between where the two nerves are joining each other. The space between them is called as synapse. So its function is to supply the muscles of the head and neck, and basically they supply the extensor muscles. So okay guys, thank you so much. If there is any question in your mind, please ask me in the comment section. So thank you so much, and Khuda Hafiz.